Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun to do some of the oldest palettes in my collection. I have done this video in the past. I didn't pull every single old palette that I own, so I do think what I have here is probably a little bit different than some of the stuff I have shown in the past. This is one of those videos I could probably film it like every 6 months and end up with a different amount. There's quite a few, so I'm going to try and not spend too long on each one. You've got some little sneak peeks from what you can see right now, but yeah, if that sounds interesting, stick around. If you are new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe. The next video is going to be reorganizing my palette display, so that will be coming, so definitely make sure you are subscribed for that. And yeah, let's jump into the video. So I need to move. I've got like stuff for videos back here that I still haven't used. I've got some stuff that I purchased for a haul video. I would like to do a glitter video that I wanted to do like a year ago. So I've got a pile over there. I've got a pile back there. There are piles. So there are going to be some organization videos coming. And also I have my ColourPop. So I'm going to do a ColourPop ranking video. I almost forgot to include some in this. There will be some ColourPop in the glitter video. I'm still going to do the Friday the 13th. So it's a whole thing. So yeah, let's jump into the actual collection. Okay, like I mentioned in the intro, I think some of these are probably the same from the video I did a year or so ago. And I think some of them are probably different because I don't pull every single one every single time. This is just sparkling water. We got a new Soda Stream for Christmas. Our other one broke, so I like doing carbonated water. Just carbonated water with some flavoring. Nothing fun in there today. So yeah, let's get started. So the pile goes towards you. So I'm just gonna, no particular order. There may be, like the brands I don't think are all together. So there's going to be a couple of like Kat Von D palettes when it was still Kat Von D. So first off, the only Jeffree Star palette I pulled this time was my Alien palette. This is still probably one of my favorite palettes. I don't know if this would actually make it in the top 10 anymore, but this was like top 5 favorite palettes for a long, long time if you've been around here for a while. But I do still like it. I can't tell you the last time I've used it, but this is one that I wish he had not discontinued because I do still really like the color story of this. And it's one that I keep out to use. So when I redo my palette display, this one is going to stay. The purple Bloodlust, I think, is going to go, but I'm still going to have this one out. All of my Jeffree Star palettes are on the older side, but Alien, I think Alien and Blood Sugar are probably my 2 oldest. I have Laura Lee's Nudie Patootie palette. I never got the Cat's Pajama one. That was her very first one. But I do still have this. This palette, I think, is still sold. Like, you can still get it. Mine is still good. Like, the shimmers in here, like this Jaybird shade feels like it finally feels like it's drying. I think I got through it. I was going to say it felt a little dry, but I think whatever. Yeah, they're all still creamy, I think. It's been a long time since I've used it, but it took me a minute to kind of get through, you know, the layer that had built up from it sitting. But once I got through that, like, those seem fine. So I think you can still get that palette. The Cat's Pajama one, I don't believe. I think she retired that. And you can't get her 6 pans anymore. I have the Sleigh Bells, which that's an older one, but the Nudie Patootie is definitely an older palette. I did get a Juvia's Place one. I think this one, I had the original Nubian and I gave it to my oldest daughter, so I don't have that one anymore, but this one's probably the second oldest. My absolute oldest one, the Masquerade mini palette, I decluttered last year. So that would have been my oldest one, but this is probably second to that. So that's what that looks like. This has survived a few declutters. I think because I like pulling for it in the fall because you have, you know, the orange and the green and the gold. I think is why I haven't been able to let it go. I hate that this is a different size from a lot of the other palettes. I wish it was a little bit smaller, but that's the only thing that annoys me about it. I think that's why I've almost decluttered it a couple of times, was because of the size. I have two Dominique Cosmetics. I think all three of mine that I have are probably around the same age, but I just pulled two. I got the Celestial Storm, which I think is going to go in my palette display because it kind of goes with the color story that I want to do. So I'm actually going to start a little pile of the ones that I would like to put out. And I am going to film a video doing that, so I'll explain more on the theming, so that way those are not in view. I think if I put them there, you'll eventually be able to see them, and that'll be annoying. Next one is Berries and Cream. This is probably the oldest. I want to say I got this one first. It took me a while to hunt down the Celestial Storm. I got it secondhand on Poshmark. It was brand new. I had gotten a mini version of it. I think it was missing 2 or 4 shades. I liked that one enough that I hunted down the full size because you couldn't get it on our website. At the time it was sold out. I don't think you can even buy it anymore. And it was hard to find a secondhand one of that palette. But Berries and Cream, I think I bought first. And I don't remember if I got this from her website or if I got it on Poshmark. I think I got it brand new either way. I think if I got it secondhand, it had never been used, but I honestly don't remember. I know the Celestial Storm one. And then the other one that I have, I got through BoxyCharm. So that one is still good. This is definitely one that I need to use. This is one that I think I only used twice. This was like a really talked about palette back in the day, and I finally got my hands on it and never really used it. I figured I would pull out all 3 of my Soph palettes because the original Soph and the Extra Spice especially were very iconic. They had a moment where everybody was talking about them, everybody was using them. This one you can't get at Ulta anymore. I got mine used from Poshmark even when it was still available. This is one they carried for a while at Ulta and then discounted it, and then I don't think that this one is sold at least at Ulta anymore. It could still be sold on Makeup Revolution. It's been a while since I've looked for these on there. I know you can still get the Extra Spice, but this one was super viral. I like this one that the names are actually printed on it. I never hit pan on any of mine, but some of mine have some pretty good dips in it, especially like this yellow. So I have kept these, and then I do have, what is this one called? Super Spice. This one never got quite as much love as the other two, especially the Extra Spice. And I like the shimmer formula in here better, but like I know this pastel like lavender shade was not great. And I think I used the hot pink, the purple, and the lavender, and then this dreamy shade. Those are the only shade, and I never came back to it. And the black, I used a little bit of the black. Never used any of the other shades, but people stopped talking about it on YouTube, and I think that may be why I didn't use it a ton. Like this, people were doing looks with the Extra Spice, especially forever. This, like, when it launched, people were using it, and then you never heard about it again. So I think that's partially why I used it the one time and then never used it again. I pulled out my Sugar Pill capsules. I don't think they're doing any more of these. I think the state of the economy has changed what a lot of brands are doing, because it's been a couple of years since they've launched a capsule palette, but I have 2. I have the orange one. This is the orange one, and I have the pink one. I never got the black one that they did for Halloween, and I never got the gold one, which was, I think, an anniversary one, but I do still have these. These are ones that I've also almost decluttered because the packaging is annoying. I have a little more room. now, and that's the only reason they've stayed. Lime Crime. Like, Lime Crime is another one where they were putting out those little 8-pan palettes that I finally decluttered all of mine just because I wasn't using them. I've kept my 2 big ones, the Greatest Hits, and then this is the Venus XL. I think because I have the Greatest Hits palette, kind of helped me to let go of those smaller ones because I was literally holding on to them for nostalgia and no other reason. I was not using them, so I gave them to a better home where they could get some use. But yeah, this is an oldie but a goodie. This is one that I consider to be an all matte palette because the shimmers in here are like satins. They're not what you would consider to be like metallic or sparkly at all. So I treat this like it's an all matte palette, and then I bring in something else. When I started treating it like that, I used it more because when I used to try and use the shimmers as shimmers, I would get mad at this palette. But now that I changed my mindset around it, I actually will pull for it more. My hands are cold, so my fingers have shrunk and my rings are sliding around. So if I keep touching it, I apologize. That's why, because it keeps moving. The Saint and Sinner. I have 2 Kat Von D palettes. The other one is towards the front. But this is one that I was not as creative, I feel like, with makeup as I am now. And so at the time when I got this, I think I've only used this maybe 3 times. And it was because it's a little chaotic to look at, but I feel like I'm more creative now as far as looks. But I don't know, the formula of this one, it's never one that I ever reached for a whole lot. I wanted it, got it. I think I got it on sale when they were doing like the 15% off at Sephora. But it's just never one that I reached for a whole lot. But I refused to get rid of it because it was expensive and I like it. I like the idea of it. I just don't use it. Another old one. This is one that my husband got me. I have shown it before because I think I did do a video where I showed all the palettes that he's bought me. But this is the Lorac Beauty and the Beast. Sigma now has a Beauty and the Beast palette also, but I just have not picked that one up. There's just been other things that I wanted more, but I do like the one that Sigma has done. It's a very similar color story, I feel like, to this, but this is still a good palette. Again, it's a little bulky to store. It's meant to look like a book. I also still have the cheek palette that has, I think it's 3 blushes and a highlighter, so I do still have that also. The BH Zodiac, I think the other BH palette that I have is the Blueberry Muffin, but that one is not nearly as old as this one. And this is another one that I feel like I got on Poshmark. I had this one and then the Love Sign one, and I never used the Love Sign. I liked the pinks in it, but other than the few pinks, it's a similar color story to this, and I like this better. It's a little more grungy. So I didn't feel like I needed both of them, and I never used the Love Sign one. I think I've used this a handful of times, but I still like it and I refuse to get rid of it. You can't get it anymore other than like secondhand, which is unfortunate. I don't have many Morphe palettes anymore, but this is one that my friend Lauren bought me. This is the Boss Mood. This is one that I have similar color stories now in a few other palettes, but because she bought it for me, she got this for me when I went to take my practical to get my license, and I've had my license. I've been cutting hair now for 7 years, so this is an older palette, but again, she bought it for me and it was for like a special thing, so I think that's why I've held on to it. And I like the color story of this one, and the formula on this one I always thought was good. The Vampirism palette from Jolie Beauty is a very similar color story. I don't like the formula of that one as well. But my husband bought me that palette, and I've only used that one like twice, so I haven't gotten rid of it for that reason. Let's see. I have several Urban Decay Naked palettes, but I feel like the Heat one is the oldest one out of the ones that I have. Again, I got this one. I think it was brand new, but I bought it on Poshmark, but I've only used it a handful of times. I reached for palettes in this color story more when I worked for AutoZone because I wore a red shirt. I don't reach for these as often other than like fall time, these kind of rusty colors. It's just not my favorite like go-to color to wear. My eyes being kind of, technically they're blue, but they look a little teal because I have an amber ribbon through. These kinds of colors will make my eyes pop more. It's just not my go-to color. I have not quite a few. I think I have 3 Too Faced ones. This is an old one. This was, what's this called? Life's a Festival. This still smells like fruit punch. I think it was supposed to smell like Tutti Frutti, but it's like High C punch is what it smells like. This was like an early attempt at like mainstream duochromes. Hi. So my daughter was down here, but this had like early like duochromes from like a mainstream brand. Now a bunch of indie brands are doing like really, really good duochromes. But I remember at the time that this came out, and they're still good, even though this is an older palette. And I like the packaging. It's cute, so I've kept it.
What kind of old?
Okay. So we have the original chocolate bar palette. Mine is not the very first one. This one's a little bit slimmer. The very original chocolate bar had a little bit chunkier packaging, but my husband got me this for Christmas the first year we were dating. Mine still smells like chocolate. It's not as strong as when I got it. We've been together for 7 years, so that's how old this palette is. But again, mine still performs. It still smells like nothing's weird on it, so even if it expires, I will just move it out of my everyday like eyeshadow drawers. I will have to make like a memento box or something. Another Too Faced palette, this is the last one, is when they, was this 2018 when they launched their birthday palette that everyone like had an opinion about because it's big. Yeah, Too Faced Then and Now. I like this palette. I still like this palette. It's very shimmer heavy. There's only 2 mattes, but the whole idea was, you know, it's their original palette from 98. Yeah, and then 2018. So in 98 was all shimmers. And then there's 3 mattes, but they're all from the 2018 because that's the way people were doing their makeup. I feel like 98 was very reminiscent of like the late 80s where it was very shimmer heavy, which I feel like we're getting back to a little bit now. People will do, you know, a shimmer all over the lid, but people had all sorts of opinions. I still like this palette. I still use it. I've never gotten a bad look out of it. Mine still smells like vanilla. I think it was supposed to smell like birthday cake or frosting or something. But yeah, it is gigantic, but I still like it. Like I said, I never did a bad look with it. I have 2 more from Urban Decay. We did a naked palette, and then I have the Moon Dust, which you can still get the Moon Dust. It is still available. Mine is a little bit older. My friend gave it to me when we were in beauty school. It's an all shimmer palette. Just turn your video down a little bit.
Okay.
My daughter's going to sit in here and watch the tablet. So if you hear extra talking in the background, that's what it is. The Electric palette. So this is over 10 years old. I have not had it the entirety of its life. I got it used on Poshmark a couple of years ago. The lady had only used it a handful of times. I have used it, I think, within the last year. It still works. It's still good. It's also, I think, going to go in this pile of ones that I'm going to put out. Yeah. Okay. We got a handful more. We've got the Dose of Colors Francation. Again, this is 6 or 7 years old. Mine is still good. I still reach from it from time to time. I don't travel with it because I had to repress this shade. If you've been here for a long time, one of my dogs got a hold of it and this entire shade popped out, scraped it up, repressed it. So I don't travel with it, but I could had that not transpired. An older ABH, I got the Modern Renaissance. I think this was the first ABH palette I ever bought. So mine's definitely like 6 or 7 years old. This palette is older than that, but I got it a year or 2 after it had launched. So again, mine is not as old as it could be, but it's not brand new either. This palette, again, is still available. You can still buy it. I bring it out during the fall. I don't use it every single year, but it is one that I tend to put on display. Okay, we have a couple from ColourPop. I decided to pull the 2 Kathleen Lights palettes that I still have. So we have Dream Street, which came first. Mine is still good. I've used it recently. It is older, so I understand not everybody wanting to use theirs. And then her Zodiac palette that she did like a year or two later, I believe. And these were when ColourPop was just starting to do palettes. So I've always liked this one for a long, long time. This was the only gold that I had. This cool toned gold was very unique in my collection. It is not anymore. I have others in other palettes now, and I think I have a liquid, but for a long, long time, that was the only true cool tone gold that I had. So this palette has hung around for a long time just because of that one shade. The other KVD palette that I have is the Lolita. I don't use this one as often. It is an all matte palette. Mine accidentally got run over in my driveway, which is why the mirror is shattered. If you've been here for a long time, the box was in the middle of the driveway and I didn't see it. Thankfully, the eyeshadows were still intact and the lipstick was still intact that I had ordered. But I have tape over this. I didn't want to pull the mirror out and wreck the packaging, so I just have packing tape so that glass doesn't continue to fall out. But yeah, it's an all matte palette. It's pretty. I like the formula on this better than the Saint and Sinner palette, so I have used this more, but it's not one that I pull for often, but I do still like it. The other Lime Crime palette that I have is the one that looks like the Polly Pocket. My daughter has the other one. I gave her the blue one because I never used that one. This one I have used. Again, it's more, I can't get it open, but this is the Color Story. And again, the shimmers in it are a little more satiny, but this is one I usually will bring in a liquid glitter. Never done a bad look with it, and I still use it from time to time. And again, it looks like a Polly Pocket. You can still get these. I think they did 3 or 4 of them, but you have to get them on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, that sort of thing. But I do still see them. The last 2 are both Tarte. So I have Love, Trust, and Fairy Dust. The unicorn one that I had, I finally got rid of because I've never used it. This one I do reach for still. Again, it's a nice mauve-y Color Story. Mine still smells like vanilla. And it's just pretty. The shimmers in this are nice. Tarte has a very like easy to use formula. And then the second one is one that I've never used. I think the pressed glitters in here are a little bit on the expired side, so I'm actually gonna put this in my pressed glitter video, but it's pretty. I just never used it. This is like the only time I sort of like did glitter in this amount in this kind of formula. It just, I don't think went over well, but the packaging is cool. So it's one that has stayed even though I've never used it. So yeah, those are some of the oldest palettes in my collection. Let me know if you have any of these. Are there ones that you have that are older that I didn't show? Let me know. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and hopefully I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye, everybody.